Right, today, after owning the Dell G5 2020 for just over a week, I have decided it's time to talk about the pros and the cons of this laptop. Here's the laptop. There it is. Probably can't see it. There it is. So also I'll be talking about its performance in editing 4K on DaVinci Resolve, along with a few benchmarks from Geekmark, but they mean nothing to me, but I will put the benchmarks up so for other people that are there. So on that note, let's get started. So first of all, let's talk about the spec and what I paid for this particular laptop. So as you can see, I went for the i7 1075X with the 6 core, 16 gig of RAM, which you can upgrade to 32 gig easily. You can do that yourself. The graphics card is the GeForce RTX 2070, 8 gig GDDRE with Max-Q, and it has 512 gigabyte of SSD memory. Now, as you can see, as you look down, you can see that you can get the one with the fingerprint for no extra cost. I recommend it very strongly. So and as you can see, all this cost me £1,495. Right. Anyway, let's get back now. That's gone. Let's get back to the thing. I bought this laptop mainly to edit videos in 4K. That was my #1 priority. I wanted to put many layers on it. I wanted to put text on it. I wanted to do color correction. And so far, it has never let me down. I put a 4K onto DaVinci and it plays back. It doesn't lose a frame. It still plays back at 25 frames per second, exactly as I put it on there. And you know, I'm just a noob. I'm not interested in all the benchmarks. I'm not interested in anything like that. All I'm interested in is what the actual laptop does for me. I also use Filmora 9 to do all my personal editing. So I can only talk about the performance within them two editing softwares. I can't talk about it with other softwares because I don't use them. When I use DaVinci, like I say, 4K, 25 frames per second, the playback is 25 frames per second. It doesn't stutter, it doesn't jump, it doesn't do anything. It does exactly what, you know, it runs perfectly smooth. I also have the S20, which can record in 8K, but at the moment I've played back in 8K and it didn't drop. It dropped a couple of frames, but nothing. It wasn't jerky or anything like that. It played back all right. So that's on 8K. So I would imagine that, you know, you wouldn't have any problem on, say, 6K if you were using DaVinci and you had a Blackmagic. I would imagine you wouldn't have any problem there. And rendering, I actually rendered a 5-minute 4K video, 25 frames per second. I had 3 layers on it. I had color correction, I have LUTs on it, and it took 40 minutes 13 seconds to render the 5-minute video. Now, to me, that's half the time that my normal PC takes to render. So from my point of view, that's brilliant. You know, my old laptop couldn't even render 4K, so there was no chance. I couldn't even edit in 4K back on my old laptop. But this one, this Dell, this little boy here, renders perfect and does the job I want it to do. When I use the same 4K video on the Filmora with 3 layers and also with color correction, it took 17 minutes 24 seconds. Now, I'm not sure why it took a lot longer to do. I have no idea. That was Filmora 9. but I'm starting to use DaVinci more than Filmora now anyway, so from that point of view it was perfect for me. I will do all my editing now on the laptop. I've got a docking station which I'll do a review on next. Anyway, before we go any further, I'll put the benchmarks up. Like I say, truthfully, they mean nothing to me, but they might mean something to some people out there, so I will stick them up for you to watch. So here you go. Right, now let's talk about the couple of cons I've got, or a couple of false problems I've got with this laptop. If, you know, only minor problems, but there are problems, so I'll have to talk about them. The first one is the weight. With the charger, it weighs in at 3.5 kilos. That's in old money about £7.5, which if you're carrying around in a laptop bag, or if you're carrying around in a rucksack, it's some weight to be carrying for any any length of time. So take that on board when you buy it. It does weigh in at the model I've got weighs in at 3.5 kilos. So that's the main thing. And also, when you put the CPU under a hell of a lot of pressure, you know, when you're rendering the 4K or rendering 6K, the fans do get very loud. Not overly loud, but you can definitely hear them. Let's put it that way. You can definitely hear the fans working. And also the middle of the keypad gets quite warm. It's not hot to the touch, it's not uncomfortably hot, but it does get quite warm as well. So there are a couple of things to take on board if you're going to put it under a lot of pressure for a long period of time. Maybe get yourself a cooling stand. The fans are mainly underneath there. There's also two at the back. So they're the two bad points. Because I wanted the backlit keys, I've got the US English keypad. If you want it without the backlit, as you saw in the pricing at the beginning, you can have the English keypad. So they're the things, and also you get the Alienware, which means you can change the colour of the keys. I'll put a little video up of that in a minute, but you can see the colour of you can change the colour of the keys and the colour of underneath. You can have any colour, you can preset it, have it for different keys and everything. I'll just stick that up now. Anyway, what I love about this is I love the Fingerprint Reader because it's quick, it's easy, and you get that free. That is no extra cost if you tick it. You have to tick it. If you don't, you'll get it without the Fingerprint Reader. Make sure that you tick that you want it with the Fingerprint Reader. It's no extra cost. So, summing up this laptop and whether I would recommend it, the answer is yes. Without 100%, I would recommend it. First of all, the first reason I would recommend it is because compared to other brands with the same spec, this is cheap. You might turn around and say £1,500 is not cheap, but if you look at other brands that have the 10th generation i7, with the 2070 graphics card, the 16 gig of RAM, which you can upgrade yourself. You don't have to send it off to get it upgraded. You can buy the RAM, you can put faster RAM in, you can put up to 32 gig of RAM in. No problem. You can upgrade your memory, you can upgrade your SSD. No problem. It is so easy to do. It's 8 screws on the back. I will be upgrading this to the 32 gig at a later date. It is easy to do. Also, the reason that I would recommend it is because, like I say, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It does exactly what I want it to do. You know, it can do it in half the time that my gaming PC, which I use for editing, can do it. My gaming PC is the i7, and the graphics card is the 950, and also it can render 6K. You know, no problem. So I've not tried it with 8K. It does what I want it to do fast enough so I can get it rendered and get back out there, and I'm not spending sort of an hour waiting for a video that I've edited to render, and before I can, you know, it's time. And obviously with editing, one thing you're trying to cut down on is how long it takes you to do different jobs. So yeah, I would recommend it. And as far as the upgrades, that's a big plus for me, is the fact that, you know, maybe next year I can upgrade it. It's going to last me a good few years. But on that note, I hope this was any good for you. Like I say, I don't know all the technical terms. I just know what it is for me, and it does exactly what I wanted it to do. So on that note, till the next time when I'll do one on the docking station, take care. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you've got any questions, stick them in the comments below.